What's up, guys? I am here with Yanni Thanos.
Thanos, yeah.
Thanos. Well, kind of Thanos. You got the big
I
hand.
get that a lot.
Where's the big hand? Show everybody
Yeah.
the big Thanos hand.
Had to get this. I'm a big Avengers fan, so this is I use this in some car commercials too.
Absolutely, man. No, he's the the ruler of the universe or something like that. So it's fitting that you got that thing on your paw. Right on. Well, hey, I want to say thank you for hanging out with me today. You
Yeah, no problem.
are a very skilled salesman and a trainer of a lot of people that that do really well. So it was natural that you were to come on and just speak a little bit to the aspiring sales pros that might be looking to turn or take their sales skills online. And if you want to give everybody just a brief description of what exactly it is you do, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. So what I do is I'm what's called a private sale trainer. So I'm self-employed. I work for myself. I'm basically like a consultant. So if I had to say my elevator pitch is that when a dealership wants to sell as many cars as possible, as fast as possible, I'm who they call. I've been doing it for about 6 years. I've had some incredible successes with it, Chrysler Canada being my biggest client. And I've broken the record twice nationally across Canada for selling the most vehicles annually. I think my first year in the business, I sold about 1,341, and almost doubling that, basically almost what combined second and third place did. And then I kind of took my foot off the gas a little bit, kind of enjoyed myself, not really working too much. A couple of years later, I put my foot on the gas again. And nobody broke my previous record, but I ended up shattering it to 1,827. And that was a few years ago. And ever since then, I was just kind of been taking it a little bit more easy and focusing on more relationship with dealers. So basically what I do is I host these sales events and on behalf of different manufacturers for dealerships. I train sales staff. I consult management with dealership operations and things like that. So basically things that I learned from other large dealerships that work extremely well, I bring to the table. A lot of experience with working with some of the biggest dealers in Canada, especially on the West Coast. So
I love it, man. And I mean, I was working at Harley for 5 years, and that was like the home run hitter, man. That was the cleanup batter. Is like you bring in a private sale right in the middle of summer or right at the end of the season to really drive a lot of business and clean up a lot of deals. And I mean, 30% growth over your biggest record breaking month or year is pretty impressive, man.
Yeah. So. And that's actually interesting. You said about Harley. They just before all the COVID stuff, I was in talks with doing sales events for the entire group, including the Harley store. I did some with their GM stores, but then COVID hit, like right when I was at the GM store doing a sale. It was middle of March. COVID was all over the news. We didn't even know if we were going to be closing down or what was going to happen here in BC. So,
yeah, hey man, car sales, that's essential, is it not?
It is surprisingly, yeah, it is. People need transportation, sales, parts. If somebody's vehicle, they need a vehicle to get around to what it is that they need to go, grocery stores and family and stuff like that. So,
yeah, no, I feel you, man. So. We're around the same age, and I'm just kind of curious, like, what happened from like when you graduated high school to get you to where you are now? Because I know, if you're anything like me, when I was 17 years old, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do for a living forever. So I naturally got into sales just because I had the gift of the gab and I like to talk to people and exchange energy and stuff like that. But, what was it for you? Like when you graduated, did you know that this is what you wanted to do, or how did that whole timeline play out?
I actually never graduated. So I never graduated high school. It's funny because I went to graduation. I did the whole grad ceremonies, things like that, except for the whole robe thing. But I went to the parties. That's all that mattered to me actually at the time. So I was always planning on going back to high school. I never actually did. And I knew that one thing in high school, it was always one of those things where I was like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? So what do you want to do with your life? As if at that time you can only pick one thing and that's the one thing you got to do for the rest of your life. And for me, it was, oh, you know what? Maybe I could see myself being like a race car driver or something, like a childhood dream kind of thing, or becoming an actor. I always like to act and stuff like that. But obviously, I ended up settling for a cool job that maybe I could drive a different car all the time. And I actually ended up getting into car sales. My dad's friend was a sales manager at a dealership. I was 21 years old at the time. I'm 39 now, so about 18 years of experience under my belt. And yeah, that's how I got into car sales. And it can be a really slack job. Sales is you get into it what you put. When I was 21 years old, and I was a little bit of a shithead, and I couldn't basically just, all I wanted to do was like, be able to go and party and pick up checks, and then be able to just stroll into work. And if I sell a car, if I don't, and for me at that time, the dealership I was working at, it wasn't like a high maintenance dealership. They just wanted people to be there to talk to customers and sell a car. It wasn't like a crazy producing store. So it was actually not the best type of store for me to start off in selling cars. But yeah, it was an experience nonetheless.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. I mean, sales is a double-edged sword. I mean, a lot of people get in because you get the freedom, but if you take advantage of that freedom, then you end up having no money in your bank. And then
Yeah,
on the flip side, for myself working on Harley, every sunny day I had to be there because people came in and they rode their bikes
yeah,
in, trade them on a sunny day.
yeah.
So, I had what I thought was my dream job, only to sacrifice all of my fun
Yeah.
for work. And, don't get me wrong, it's um, the the seasonal job isn't an excuse, or wasn't an excuse, but it's really hard when where, I mean, we're both in Vancouver. It rains, and people don't buy bikes usually in the wintertime. And
Mhm.
so I know there's a little bit of difference from the car dealership to motorcycle sales. But overall, like, when you got into sales, like, what was when did it go from like a passive thing to, oh wow, this is something I'm really good at, that I'm gonna take to the extreme, right?
Yeah, I dabbled in a couple of different ways when in the sales industry. So, for example, I was a salesperson working at a couple of different dealerships. I actually got fired for my first 6 sales jobs, so that was kind of cool. Because, like I said, when in my early 20s, I was a total shithead. I actually didn't get my life in order, but until I was about 27 years old. That's when life really started to take it serious. So for those anytime before that, um, my values and my goals were just having a good time, having fun. And I could definitely change that if I go back now. Is one of cliche lines. If I knew now what if I know now back then what I know, whatever. I can't even say it right. You'll Google it, you'll figure it out. Anyways, so basically, um, yeah, I was selling cars, and then I got involved with importing cars from Japan. Very low kilometer, high end luxury vehicles from Japan. I was one of the first people to do that in BC back in 2005, 2006. And then it got really saturated. It just wasn't worth it anymore. But I made some good money doing that. And then what a lot of people don't understand, I actually grew marijuana. And back at a time when you weren't supposed to be growing marijuana. And but I wasn't crazy about that either. It wasn't really more for me. I enjoyed selling cars, but I also, my family, my dad had a car shop, and where he did a lot of high-end performance tuning and stuff like that, a reputation. So I was always in and out working around the family business. I almost opened up a dealership when I was 24, but unfortunately couldn't get the licensing had changed at the time to do consignment sales. You had to be a dealership already for 3 years before being eligible to do consignment sales. And I didn't have the capital to buy a whole bunch of vehicles like my own inventory. So just ran the business with my dad as I bought it from him. I ran it, but working with family doesn't always work. And I was pulling hair out, arguing with my old man because I'm the son. I should be the one listening, but he's the old school ways. I'm the new school's ways. Guy took some business courses and things like that. But and then my dad ended up getting cancer, so he ended up having to shut his business down, and I had to start really kicking my ass in gear. I came to a crossroads in my life, what it was I wanted to do, and I was also attending therapy, so and that helped out huge. But I was looking at 3 different types of jobs at the time. Again, jobs. And it was either becoming a finance manager at a car dealership, which my foot was already in the door to do something like that. I didn't really need any long-term training or anything. That's the beautiful thing about sales. Or becoming an airline pilot, which would have took me like 8, 9 years flying time, and cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to make maybe the same amount of money you could make in sales with like a fraction of the time and effort. Or becoming a psychologist. I really enjoyed helping people and things like that, but I never graduated high school, and 8 years university full time to make barely 6 digits when I was already in a career that was easy to do that without investing 10, $15,000 a year for that long. It just didn't make business financial sense for me. So I decided to stay in the car business. And at that point, I started to focus on some online training, mentorship, and just elevated my game. And I doubled to tripled my income like within 2 weeks once that started happening. And once I started taking the sales business seriously, it started taking me seriously. And that was the good thing. That's where everything changed for me.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. It's the beauty of being a sales guy is it's kind of like an a la carte menu. You can basically do the trainings that you want. And I was the same way. I'm heavily into psychology myself. I think if
Yeah.
you're a sales guy, you're just naturally into that because you're working with people and you're looking for signs and how to relate and communicate on a deeper level. But I was never the type of guy where I was like, oh, I'm going to go to school for 4 years, 5 years. I got to read all this stuff and learn all this stuff that has
Yeah.
really nothing to do with the thing that I want to do in the first place. And then you're going to
Yeah.
grade me on it before I can even make any money. I'm like, no. I want to like just put someone in front of me and like, let me sell them. And I was kind of the same way, 27 years old. That's when my whole life kind of, I don't know about you, but did you get the feeling that like you're getting close to 30 and it's like, holy shit, I'm nowhere near where I thought I would be at 30 years old?
No, actually, no, it wasn't even like that at all. It was when I was 27, my life was just garbage. Like I had a 42-inch waist. I had $5 in my pocket. I was living in my parents' basement. Girlfriend had dumped me, rightfully so. She should have dumped me. And I remember going on a date with another girl and ordering water because I couldn't even and like order anything, but like it was a coffee date. And yeah, so basically it was just like my life was just shit. And the first step that I took to make a big difference in my life was actually, before anything, this is a little bit off of sales path, but was therapy. I went and started seeing an incredible therapist and completely changed my life. And you start to realize how the therapy was great, and for me also to establishing a relationship with myself, but a relationship with other people, right? So again, and that's what sales is. Establishing a relationship with other people greatly helps sales as well. So
Right. Well, I went down that path a few years ago myself. I went to a clinical hypnotherapist, and
mhm.
it's crazy, man. The sort of internal work that is to be done, no matter who you are, where you are in your
Oh
life.
yeah,
A lot of people don't take that time to reflect. I'm
no, not
heavily
at all.
into Jordan Peterson just because I
Yeah,
really like his balance of morality and common sense.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of when everything's really started to change, or when my numbers started to go up in business was really when I started to incorporate the psychology into the day-to-day sales, opposed to just
Mhm.
taking every sale as it comes. How do I say it? Like, instead of I'm not being prepared, really
Yeah.
taking it a little more seriously. So that kind of leads me to my next question. What is, obviously you've done a ton of training in your life if you are a trainer.
Mhm.
What would you say was the most impactful training that you've taken up to now?
Ooh, that's a good question. Regarding sales,
Yeah, like we talking
um,
Joe Verdi training, you got Grant Cardone, like what sort of training really hit home for you?
it was actually the training that hit home for me is what changed my entire sales career around. So what happened was, um, I was suffering from what, as a salesperson, I was suffering from what was called, I had taken the finance manager course, um, but I had no experience as a finance manager. And what happened was I was working at a car dealership at the time, and I was suffering from what's called manageritis. So I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
Manageritis? No,
Manageritis. Okay.
I'm not even gonna try to guess.
It is it's good, but it's bad at the same time. So it's, for example, when you suffer from manageritis, you're basically in a position like, you're a salesperson who wants to be a manager so bad, but that opportunity is not available to them at that time. But what happens is you start to like not appreciate your current position that you're at. You start to loathe it, and your performance starts to suck. So I was drastically suffering from manageritis because I was a finance manager, wanting to be a finance manager, but there was no space for that at my dealership. So my numbers were starting to plummet, right? So it was really funny because I actually ended up losing my driver's license. So too many speeding tickets, and that actually was a good thing,
Is this
because what
before
happened
or
was,
after the Ferrari?
sorry.
This before or after the Ferrari?
Oh, it's way before. This is like 10 years ago. Yeah, surprisingly, a Ferrari, I drive the speed limit. Anyway, so basically, I lost my driver's license, and I had no choice now, because to go look for a job and interview for a job in the automotive industry, you do not have a driver's license, or you lost it for whatever reason, suspended. It's really frowned upon. So I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to get a job anywhere. So I'm like, but I'm stuck here. And luckily for me, I didn't tell the dealership I lost my license. Now, I didn't drive any of the vehicles at the dealership, but I basically, what I did was, the dealership was 2 blocks away from my house. So for them to be like, oh, Yanni, why aren't you driving your Expedition to work anymore? I just drove it anyways. It was 2 blocks. So I had lost my license for about 8 or 9 months, something like that. So, but at that time, I'm like, man, I'm at this dealership anyways. I'm not going to be able to get a job anywhere else. So why don't I like just focus on being the best in sales as I could possibly be? And it was actually a gentleman, which he doesn't even have his course out anymore. His name was Tom Van, and his sales process calls velocity selling methodology. And he was like one of the first, before Grant Cardone, anybody. This guy, 2010, had courses online, and just with his free stuff, he'd be able to make over 100 grand a year. And his skill set and his experience is the fact that he actually owned a Chrysler dealership, and he was a sales guy at his own Chrysler dealership. Like, he owned the dealership, and he loved sales so much that he sold cars at this dealership. And the crazy thing about this dealership, back 2009 now, 70% of their business was done online.
Hmm.
70% of their business was done online. It was in a small town just outside of Michigan, where it's like population of 40,000 people. And it was like it was the best selling dealership in the state. And it was crazy. And so his, one sec here, my battery thing just turned on. And so basically so I just started watching his videos, and as soon as I would go into work, I would watch one of his videos and write everything down and just memorize it. And then, like, literally within 2-3 weeks, my income just blew up. And December, which is supposed to be one of the crappiest months of the year, I ended up making, like, the last 2 weeks of the month, I ended up making like 15 grand, like, just killing it. And at that point, like, management was like, oh wow, like, where did this come from? 3 months later, I got promoted to sales manager, right? So that really helped out a lot. So I basically I got what I worked for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
before, I was like, oh, I really wanted it. I demanded it. I felt like I needed it. But then when I put that to the side and I actually did what was needed, and I earned it, right? I earned it the right way, right? So once I got rid of manageritis, that helped a lot. So, and I've seen a lot of salespeople suffer from that, and it affects them pretty bad. So,
Yeah, man. Like I didn't know that was the term, but I had it. I've like
yeah,
same thing, man. In my last year, well, before I went to the oil field, I was super frustrated. I'm like, and you butt heads. And I think all
yeah,
really, really good sales guys, top level elite sales guys, are always gonna butt heads a little bit because of the control, being able to
yeah,
write your own deals and to throw in, different parts and services or whatever, because you can close them, you can do it now, right? And sometimes the sales manager has a little bit of a different goal. But I do remember that being like, fuck, man, like, why can't I be the sales manager? And he wasn't going anywhere, right? Manager, what is it?
manageritis.
Manageritis.
Manageritis. So, and here's the crazy thing. Shortly after that, once I got my license back, I actually quit. So I got promoted, and then once I got my license back, I'm like, being a sales manager wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to get into finance. I wanted to do the finance, and there wasn't available at the dealership. So I was like, okay, I quit. So at that time, I was already transitioning my life from Surrey to downtown.
Right.
And I got hired as a sales and finance manager at another a luxury car dealership in West Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And I slowly started. I sold my house in Surrey, and then I moved downtown. And so every position I've ever really wanted, that was the only one that I actually got promoted at. But I've always kind of promoted myself. So I'll work somewhere for about a year, and then I feel like I've plateaued it, and then I'll quit and just go somewhere else. That's what I've always done, right? Because I kind of get pretty bored easier if I see like I can't move ahead, then I move on. But the position that I've been doing right now, again, I'm self-employed. I've been doing private sales now for 6 years, right? So again, it's the entrepreneur type of freedom, being able to work your schedule and stuff like that. Yeah.
I like that you brought that up, because that is actually there's going to be people watching this that are exactly in that sort of mindset. I know I was in that mindset. Same thing. Every sales job you have, you get excited, you get jacked up, you want to see where you are, you want to see, in the sort of, I want to call it hierarchy, but I guess it kind of is like, who's the best, right? Who's the best on the sales floor? And then once you become the best, then, I mean, whether you sell 10 cars, 20 cars, 50 cars, 100 cars, you're still always the best, but it's still the same. You're still in that same pool. So I know there's a lot of sales guys where it's like, for lack of better terms, it's like, chasing a girl. And then once you get her, it's kind of like, well, and then if you love your girl, it's all good. I mean, we all long-term relationships for a long time. That's not the point. But I'm saying, there's that excitement, there's that chase, there's that, what's going to happen when I become the best at my craft? Like, what's going to happen when I crush all these sales skills? What's my paycheck going to look like? What's my life going to look like? And then it happens. And generally what happens is you're not as impressed as you thought you would be. And that's anyone who's
exactly
set and hit a goal knows that when you actually hit the goal, it's not what you think it is. It's like, perfect, great. Now you're so far
on to the next one.
On to the next one that you kind of, So,
and it's also, I just want to add there, that it's also really important to become really grateful. One of the things that I try to focus on more today, and I actually have to focus on this, is to be grateful, right? To realize that all the accomplishments that I have today are accomplishments that I dreamed about in the past for myself. And sometimes it's like I get to this point and I'm like, okay, well, what's next? What's the next car? What's the next this, or what's the next that, right? But also also what I've started to do to kind of meditation has helped me actually appreciate things a little bit more. So it makes me meditation makes me more grateful for what it is that I currently have. It's really weird, right? So it's like where I can enjoy my view a lot more, enjoy my apartment, enjoy my car, enjoy this, right? So it's like I'm not always looking to that way. I'm excited about what's next to come, but I'm very appreciative to enjoy the things that I have now. And I think that's very, very important for people to be very happy with the present and what they have, right? So
yeah, well, when you're living downtown in a penthouse with a Ferrari in the garage, and yeah, man, I'd be grateful.
It's not bad,
yeah.
It's funny what motivates all of that stuff too. So it's it wasn't always like this. It was meeting people and getting actually our mutual friend Vince.
Yeah,
I don't know if I ever told you the story. He actually really motivated. I always wanted to move downtown, and one time we were at this huge rave, Contact Festival, BC Place Stadium, and Vince was there, and everybody's like, "Oh, what are we going to do after this festival? What are we going to do after this festival?" And I had just moved downtown Vancouver, and at that time, that job that I got as sales and finance manager in West Van was a dangling carrot type of job. I ended up making so little money at that place. I actually, at one point, I was borrowing money for rent, and I remember being with Vince and another group of friends, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just have people come back to my place after the party." So we're like, "Okay, everybody head back to Vince's house." And as we're in his underground, just ripping around his parking in his underground, he's like, "Oh, park right there," and boom, he's got his blacked out R8. Yeah. And just beautiful car. This is like 6-7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. 7 years ago, huh?
It's probably at the Hudson then.
He was at the Hudson. Yeah. He was at the Hudson, and he's like, I didn't know any. Like, I knew Vince, but I knew him from back home. I didn't know how incredible he was doing now. And he's got his blacked out R8. I'm like, man, that's a sick car. And then we go up to his place. It's this penthouse. There's a 3-floor penthouse, and this is before he bought the unit next to it. Okay, and then made it one big place. So even it was a 3-floor penthouse. So 2 livable floors, bedroom on one floor, and then the living room and kitchen on the other. You know, you've been there. You've been there, right?
Bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you've definitely been there. And then you go up to this rooftop penthouse patio, and he's got his hot tub there, and just this incredible view, this multi-million-dollar view of North Vancouver, the mountains, the ocean, and just like the lines. It's just unbelievable. And I'm like, oh my God, I want this, right? And that's what the dream was. It was like it was starting to put a goal together. And I think a lot of people go through life never actually planning what they want.
Mhm.
And because the reason why they don't plan exactly what it is that they want is because they don't think they can get it, right? So a lot of people want to humble themselves. They want to be like, oh, I want the Ferrari, but I can't get it, so I'll just settle for, like, no offense, like the Corvette. Do you know what I mean? Because that's usually what ends up happening,
Mhm.
right? Because let's be honest, a lot of people that own Corvettes probably would buy a Ferrari if they could. But I'm going to tell you right now, Corvette guys, like a lot of guys that own Ferraris will not buy a Corvette. It's just how it is, right? So and it's really really important to just like not like it's important to humble yourself, be grateful for what you have, but have the fucking balls to go for it. To fucking go for it. Dream big, dream huge, dream so ridiculous that, like, and maybe don't share it with everybody, because sometimes you'll feel like your dreams are too big for other people. And if your dreams are too big for other people, you maybe need to start hanging out with some other people that have big dreams like that as well. And that's actually what helped me a lot, because I didn't have a lot of that back at home. And when I moved to downtown Vancouver and I started hanging out with people that were making more money in a month than I was making an entire year at the peak of my income, I was like, this is where I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
This is the right people. And these people are normal people. They're normal people. They just make a ton of money. And that's all they talk about is how to make money and how to spend it and enjoy life. That's it. And they're just genuinely happy and they have the freedom to do so. So Vince was, and it's funny, I've told Vince, I'm like, bro, you motivated me. And I'm like, oh, that was a goal that I really wanted. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I was borrowing money at the time. And then yeah, like 3 years after that, I've been now in my own 3-floor penthouse. I have my own hot tub on my roof, and I've been here for 4 years. And yeah, so it's crazy. It's just, you got to have those goals. You have to visualize exactly what it is that you want. Will Smith said it the best in an interview with Arsenio Hall. He's like, just decide who you're going to be, what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it, and then the universe is just going to deliver it to you, right? So, and that's what it's all about, it, right? Well, if you take action, of course, don't just sit there, close your eyes, fantasize, do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna start to become very awareness. Okay, where your focus goes, that's where it's gonna grow, right? So,
Yeah, no, I feel you there, man. And you know what you were saying, people, the fear of dreaming big
yeah,
is, in my opinion, the biggest reason people won't dream big is because you actually have to take inventory of where you are. And a
yeah,
lot of people, they just don't want to admit that they're doing it wrong. They
yeah,
rather just pretend that everything's the way it's supposed to be and whatever. But when you actually stop and go, holy shit, like, I'm not saving money. I don't have a good circle of influence. I haven't read anything since high school. I don't understand how to do my taxes. I am an employee that spends more money than I make. There's so many things that you need to dissect and really be real with yourself before
yeah,
you can actually take action. And that's that transformation part. You hit the shit feelings before you get to the happy, oh, this is all going to work out for me. You got to start
yeah,
processing that. And for some people, you're forced into it. I was kind of forced into that, where the job I was at and the things that were happening in my life, it was like I either go back to doing the same thing or I take that leap.
yeah,
And I know that if you have a normal job and you're making 50, 60 grand a year, and you're living okay, you're not in that no man's land really, where life sucks so bad you have to do something, you're kind of comfortable. It sometimes, having something like COVID, there's going to be a shit ton of millionaires made in 2021.
oh, ridiculous.
And it's those
Tons.
people on the fence, right? People
Yeah,
that are like, guys like us that are just starting to come up, that are like, should I do it? Should I not do it? It's like, I remember when I got into business, for myself, and I ended up making 10 grand in my very first 6 weeks. And I was scared to death. I didn't think I'd be able to do this. I was terrified of computers.
Mhm.
I had no center of influence. I had no coaches, no mentors, didn't read a book since high school. And then I made this thing happen. I was like, oh my God, like I'm better at this than I thought I was. And there's so many
Yeah.
people out there. It's like, if you just try, you might be absolutely amazing at whatever it is that you're doing. Like, what
Yeah.
if it actually works out? So I guess that kind of brings me to my my next question here is, what would you say is the most rewarding part of what you've been doing? Like, because I know you're self-employed, you work with private sale or your private sales, you're training people. What would you say is the most rewarding part of what you do every day?
That's a good question. There's a couple of different ways that you can look at rewarding. You can look at rewarding when and how you're affecting other people, and you can look at rewarding and how it affects yourself, which of course affecting other people should be a reward to affecting yourself. But sometimes it's also just the little things that you enjoy with yourself, right? Um, the most rewarding thing is obviously going to dealerships and number one, helping salespeople being able that specifically ones that could be potentially struggling to actually go ahead and perhaps they can learn a couple of new tidbits here and there that can help them. Not only by the sales process, but also like encouraging them, making them feel better, like motivating them and inspiring them and stuff like that. And it was actually interesting because a few years ago, when I had signed a contract with one of the biggest dealerships in BC, the owner of the dealership had pulled me into a meeting, and I hadn't been back at that dealership for a while. They had signed me to an exclusive contract to work there every single week for a year. And they pulled me into the sales meeting first thing in the morning. So, yeah, so Yanni's back. Really happy to have him back. And it's funny because he was a genius in the industry, and he was like, so Yanni, tell us about where you live. You live in downtown, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're not in a pretty nice apartment. I'm like, yeah, pretty nice apartment and stuff like that. Now I also try to be humble around people that I work with and stuff like that. And so I don't really, I never really want to come off like bragging about anything, especially salespeople that I don't know and stuff like that. It could kind of rub their face the wrong way because there's a lot of salespeople out there that come in. They're like, oh, I'm the shit. I'm the man. I'm this. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Right. And it's just a nightmare. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be one of those guys that goes somewhere and brags and this and that. Nobody's going to like you. Nobody's going to like you. Go in there and be a team player. But anyways, so what I'm talking about is this owner of this dealership. He basically goes, he's like, oh, you live in a nice apartment, don't you? I'm like, yeah, yeah. He's like, oh, it's like a 3-floor penthouse downtown. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it is. And then he goes, well, what do you drive? I'm like, well, I drive a Jeep Wrangler. He's like, he's like, because I'm like, oh. And then he's like, no, tell us about your other car. And I'm like, and then it clicked in. I knew exactly what he was doing because the owner is also self-made in sales in the automotive industry, right? And I'm like, I drive a Ferrari. And then he's like, okay, and how did you get that Ferrari? I'm like, I got it in car sales, right? That's where he was going with it. So I'm sitting there in front of 30 salespeople, biggest dealership in Canada. Actually, yeah, at the time, it might have been the biggest dealership in Canada. It was at least the biggest dealership in BC. And that's what he was doing. He wanted his staff to dream big about what it was that they could potentially get. So for example, that at the very least, if they were at that dealership and they were wanting to make $20,000-$30,000 a month, that they gave it their all to do that. And once they got to that point, if they wanted to do more than that, then maybe they can go to some other industry or do something, or maybe they can figure out a way to do 40 or 50 grand at that dealership per month, right? But he wanted them to dream big. And below, there's a lot of dealerships out there that don't want that, right? So it's like to encourage and motivate and inspire them, right? And that's the rewarding thing at the dealership. And also a lot of the times with customers, right? A customer can come in and unfortunately they're not getting where they need to be for whatever reason with the said salesperson or said sales manager, or sometimes there's a disconnect in communication. And that's where a lot of the people skills that I have, building rapport, comes in, and you end up closing that deal, right? So you get a happy customer, dealership's happy, and we managed to make something happen, right? Now, the rewarding part for myself is obviously being self-employed. Is I do work my own schedule, right? So if I'm not working, I can do pretty much whatever I want. which can be dangerous as well. You can be pretty lazy. I'm not the most disciplined person in the world, so discipline is definitely important to get your stuff across and to always get ahead. It's a good making a good habits list every single day and just check it all off.
Mhm.
That's very important when you're self-employed. I think Kevin, you can relate to that. And but yeah, so the rewarding. But I mean, like, my first year doing my job, like my career, it's blew a record, and then the following year I worked 6 months and I went to like 5 different countries. I did some traveling. I bought a Ferrari in cash. I You know what I mean? So it was just like, and then the year after that I worked again, and then the year after that I took another 6 months off, 5 or 6 months. There was months where I worked 3 days
Yeah.
out of the month. You know what I mean? So it's like, but now it's kind of like I got pretty comfortable, and comfort is bad.
Yeah.
Comfort is bad, but I needed that. I needed to get comfortable at some point, and then eventually it's just kind of like, okay, well, I've kind of done that, and I appreciate all the things that I have now. But what's next? And that's when, if I was back home, a lot of the success that I have now, a lot of people would be like, "Oh man, that's amazing, that's awesome, good for you." But the people that I hang out with are like, I went to Dubai last winter with a buddy who spent probably $500,000 in 5 days just to party.
Yeah.
With he flew me and my girlfriend at $15,000 round trip each
Yeah.
to fly to Dubai to go at the F1 and stay at the Burj Al Arab at $32,000 a night, like a yacht $40,000 a day. And it was like, man, when you see somebody doing that, you're like, wow, okay, like what else can I do? What's next, right?
Absolutely. Which is that kind of what
So
brings me to the last question is what's 2021 look like for you? Like what's your big goals? What are you going to be doing by this time next year?
2021, that's a good question. I've actually started a YouTube channel earlier this year, and it's called all my social media handles are Yanni Got the Goods, and basically the channel is kind of a way for me to express my lifestyle, and the tagline is to entertain and inspire. So basically, I love entertaining people. I love making people laugh. So there's going to be a lot of just lifestyle stuff on that, but at the same time, there's going to be content that's going to be inspirational. So, for example, how you're interviewing me right now, and some people might find a benefit to that and the story behind it. I'm also going to be doing with certain other people and things like that. I have a lot of very successful friends that would be more than happy to share their stories. I think that there's a lot of people out there that are showing pretty incredible lifestyles and things like that, but not really offering the valuable information to people to be able to do that, right? So yeah, we'll see where it's going to go. I pumped out some content on it a few months ago. I haven't really done much with it, but I'm back in touch with my videographer and with a social media influencer company. I'll be working with that, and I am also working on a digital marketing business that's going to be specific for the automotive industry. It's going to be basically based mainly on social media marketing, and also with teaching salespeople and dealerships to not only market their companies, how to actually become influencers themselves. So therefore, they can actually get their own business. Because when they get a business from their social media, it costs the dealership $0.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
yeah, we in the industry we call that infotainment. So it's information that's also really
yeah,
entertaining,
exactly.
and you nailed it, man. Anybody out there, like if you want to know the trick, is you need to build a personal brand, because your brand
Yeah,
will take you anywhere you want to go. And that's why George Clooney can make a tequila and like, oh shit, George Clooney's tequila.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not jonesing for tequila, but I'm like, oh fuck, well, maybe I'll take a look at it. Or the Rocks or Conor McGregor, or any of these guys
yeah.
that have like these liquor businesses that absolutely blow up. It's the brand behind the person that is really the thing that's going to catapult people into wealth in the digital economy, man. It's, people are looking for people they can trust,
No,
and
absolutely.
they
Yeah,
can learn and really take their skills. And again, you're basically doing what we're doing in a different industry, right? Which is it's so awesome that you can basically take the brand that you have and put a bit of a spin on it, live your life, do the things that you like to do, that
yeah,
you enjoy, plus inspire people, plus make a living. And then the most important part of this whole process is it's scalable. It's something that you can duplicate. And I mean, I have no doubt that your brand is going to be very, very successful in the near future here online. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And you know, um,
I was just gonna add as well, like also like a part of, and it's funny because remember the very, very beginning of the interview, we were talking about what it was I was thinking about doing in high school. I
yeah,
was like, oh, you know, maybe I'd love to be a race car driver or an actor or something like that. And it's funny because if you look at now, like practically 22 years later, something like that. And now through YouTube, I have the ability to entertain people, which is what actors do. And I have and there's going to be a large portion of it is going to be some supercars and stuff like that. Because supercars, I'm a car guy. I don't have a Ferrari just because it's like, oh, hey, look, it's a cool car to have. No, like I have a Ferrari because I love cars. And my car, if you ever, my car itself is an enthusiast car. It's not just your run of the mill type of a Ferrari. So there's going to be a lot of that. So it's like, what did I say when I was coming out? I said, well, I would like to do something where I drive cool cars and like, you know, or an actor. And guess what? 22 years later, through YouTube, and now with the experience that I have and stuff like that, I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's, and I've had a lot of other people say, hey, you know what? You should do that. You should totally do that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. 22 years ago, that's what I wanted to do. And here I go. So what it means, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is like, at one point in time, if whoever's watching this, if you've thought about doing something at one point in time and you kind of had to put it on the back burner, doesn't mean that, don't let that get out of your head, because as you go along, you might find an opportunity where you're actually going to be able to incorporate that into something in your future, and you're going to be able to really enjoy what it is that you're doing. So
absolutely. And like I said before, man, you don't know how good you are until you try. And there's a lot of people
yeah,
out there,
exactly.
they are literally worth their weight in gold. And it's just like, if you just took a shot, bro, like, you understand what a little bit of traction can do, a little bit of duplication. And again, obviously being committed to a goal long term, and you just stick it out and grind it every single day. I mean, I'm living proof that if you just stick to one path and you do it well, that your dreams can come true. And, you know, we're in a position now where we're looking to, you know, buy our dream house on the lake and, you know,
Nice.
get a
Congratulations.
nice,
That's amazing.
yeah, I guess some garage space so I could buy some toys. I mean, what's the point of
Yeah.
having money if you can't buy toys, right? And all that sort
Well,
of good.
well, that's the whole thing. Like you know, one of the things that I hate the most is like when people say to me, like, "Money is not everything. Money is not everything." Those people don't realize like what money is. Like when somebody says to me, "Money is not everything," basically what they're saying to me is everything that I want to experience in life isn't everything.
Yeah.
Wrong. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Everything that I want to do, I want to go on this trip. To me, it's everything. You know what? You only live once, and if you do it right, that's all you need to live, right? So it's like, you know, so that's one of the things. And two of my favorite sayings is the the value of currency. So, for example, how you make others feel is the most valuable currency there is, and audience is also the most valuable currency.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one was said by Jim Carrey. The second one, I don't remember who it's said with, but we could just say I made it up.
Sure. But yeah, man, it's at the end of the day, it's like they say, was it money isn't the problem, but it's what solves all your problems or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and again, money's a tool. And the only time that money is a bad thing is when you don't have enough. You don't have enough,
Yeah.
then it's the thing that you're resisting against. It's the thing that is you're thinking about it all day long. Oh, my bills are coming out. My bills are coming out. Oh, I got to pay for this. I got to buy groceries. You know, I got presents that I got to buy for the kids. You know, Christmas is coming. But when you have an abundance of money, it's just a tool. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just and this is coming from Vince actually. And this is really funny. When I started making some decent money, Vince was like, he's like, money's for buying stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That's all
what
it
money's
is.
for, man.
Yeah.
He's like, why are you holding on to all your money? Like, it's not, and this is something that Grant Cardone said. He goes, money is not yours to keep. It's
Yeah.
yours to exchange for value. And if you're doing it right, you'll have that money replaced in a greater sum than what you put out. And I
Exactly.
really like that really hit me. It's like, you know, it's not yours to keep. The money that's in your bank account was in someone else's bank account before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be in someone else's bank account at some point in time.
Yeah.
And when you kind of get your mind around, okay, so when I bring in money, I got to use it to make myself more money, instead of what a lot of people do is they go, oh, I need to save up. I need to save
Yeah.
and save and save. If you want to save, you might as well just go drill a hole in your boat, because you're going to sink.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Saving, and it's important to invest your money, and whether you're going to be investing it in businesses or intelligent investing in stocks or real estate, such as yourself. Me, I'm grateful to have a friend who's absolutely ridiculously successful in cryptocurrencies, and he gives me he just tells me what to invest in and hold, and I just do that. And so far, that portfolio has been up 70% this year doing nothing.
Yeah.
So it's been, and I actually probably would have done even better if I actually was on top of it a little bit more. So it's important to invest in things that kind of strike to you. I have a friend of mine who's in construction. He's like, "What should I invest in?" I'm like, "Just invest in real estate." You know what I mean? Like, invest in real estate. You're in construction, you can do renovations, flips, whatever. Like, do something that appeals to you. There's a lot of side investments that appeal. Some people like to just to invest in businesses, right?
Yeah.
Put capital in businesses, etc. So
Yeah. I've always been, and this is my own personal perspective.
mhm.
Um, the best investment that I can make is into other people,
Oh,
because
100%.
if I can duplicate my own production, then there's nothing like Bitcoin isn't gonna outperform people. Real estate, stocks, nothing
Hmm.
outperforms a motivated, hungry guy
Yeah,
who has something to fight for. He's got leverage. He's got people in his life that he's looking to provide for or to prove
yeah,
wrong. You let
yeah,
go a hungry beast of a person in the right opportunity, they will literally move mountains to get what they want. And I've always been a huge believer of, I wake up every morning and I say, today's the day I'm going to find my next superstar. I may not know it,
yeah,
but he's
yeah,
coming in, he's developing, and you never know where that's going to go. So
yeah, yeah.
awesome, man. Well, hey, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me, man. It's been an hour. And just one final
Ooh.
thought for anybody here who's on the fence. They're thinking about starting a business, becoming self-employed, taking full responsibility for their income and their future. What would you say to them?
Um, what I would say is somebody that's it's basically steps every single day. You know what I mean? Figure out what it is that you want to do, and how much time it's going to take you to do it. What are the skills that you need? How much time is it going to take for you to develop those skills? What would it cost for you to develop those type of skills? And is it something that you can find yourself that you're motivated to do it? Now, there's a lot of, it's kind of back and forth depending who you ask. Some people say to do something that you're really passionate about, but a lot of people now, more and more, are coming out saying, not necessarily do what you're really, really good at, and what really good at making money, right? And then sometimes you can do the things that you're passionate about on the side as a hobby, where, because sometimes if you're passionate about something and you do it on the side, the business aspect of it doesn't end up being the most appealing, or it's not profitable, right? So find something that you're good at that makes you good money, and just always keep moving forward. You're always going to be getting better and better and better as you go along, right? So then 6 months can change your life dramatically. That's all it really takes. People think takes like all this, a lot of time. 6 months could change your life dramatically. So it's a new age with the internet and online, and it's affecting all industries. It's made it easier than ever to actually, if you do what's necessary, you're going to succeed. You will, absolutely.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I can see the sun starting to poke out in Vancouver here. So just looked outside. It's nice and blue, which is a nice break from the rain. So again, man, I
Yeah,
really appreciate you coming out, and we will definitely do this again sometime soon.
no problem, buddy. Anytime.
Awesome.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.